Hey everyone, and happy Labor Day. Happy Monday. It's nice to not be at work on Monday. Because I didn't really do much today, I actually lost track. I wasn't even sure it was Monday when I said it. But yeah, welcome to this Labor Day lab. We're going to be scripting in Linux. We're really going to be putting together the things that we've learned so far on the channel. So we're going to be diving back into some coding concepts during the scripting process. We'll do a lot of stuff with Linux itself. We'll get a lot done. Tonight's going to be pretty scenario based. I created 3 scenarios that kind of build upon each other. Relatively simple scenarios so that we can get through, in the right amount of time. But I think they'll help kind of understand, one, how to approach tasks like this, how tasks might come to you, how you might look for ways to help automate inside of an organization. So that's what we'll be working on tonight. But as usual, I'll give people a few minutes to get on. I expect viewership to be a little bit low tonight. I contemplated heavily on whether or not I wanted to stream on Labor Day when making the schedule, but just for scheduling for me for some things that I have coming up later in the year, things I have to go do. I couldn't not stream today. I needed to stream today to get through the whole thing. So welcome everyone who decided to hop on. Hopefully in the next few minutes, I know there's some people right now trying to figure out, they're looking at their phone, they're like, do I feel like hopping on tonight? Do I want to stay at this cookout? Do I want to just keep watching TV? So hopefully maybe we can put out the energy out there and sway a couple of those people. But tonight should be fun. We should be able to get through a lot. How's everyone doing today? Did everyone have a relaxing Labor Day so far, a day off? I hope you had a day off. If you didn't have a day off, definitely let me know. I've definitely had times when I did not have Labor Day off or holidays off, but usually you get some differential pay or something like that. So hopefully if you didn't get the day off, you got that stuff. But yeah, if you didn't get off today, let me know. If you did something cool today, let me know. All I did was I had an adult today, finding time to do all the adult things. So I had to, take care of the dog a little bit. She had surgery, so she's good. Changed the oil in my car. That was a hassle. It's usually not a hassle, but it was a hassle today. I had to go buy a couple of extra tools to be able to do it a little bit easier. But yeah. Fighting the Google app script. Yep. Tonight, hopefully we won't have to fight too much with the script. I haven't written the script. I thought of a scenario, pretty simple scenario, but I haven't written it out yet. So hopefully we won't have to fight too much with it. Hopefully it's pretty easy to get through. Hopefully if were you able to figure it out, Yeasty Goodness, were you able to figure out, let me know if you're able to figure that script out. Chilling. I took a run around Philly. That's what's up. So I told you guys I'm on a little bit of a weight loss journey. I've been doing a lot of cardio lately. I've always hated running, always, but I'm pretty good at a lot of other things. I'm really good at rowing, and I started back on the elliptical, so I was doing a lot of stuff with that. But I've been running lately, and I like it a lot. And I'm hoping as I drop more weight, it'll become more enjoyable. I would like to use that as my cardio. Tavares, hey everybody, I'm new to DevOps. Just my bachelor's in IT in May. That's what's up. Congratulations. I got you at Wells Fargo. That's awesome. That's really good. That's a big boost. Like one of the hardest things to do in the tech career, in a tech career period, especially within DevOps, is to kind of get that first job. Once you got the first one, you can kind of do what you want, which is pretty nice. But so congratulations on getting that. Serving as a junior DevOps engineer, that's pretty great. Sounds like you're working with a lot of cool tools. We'll definitely be going over we won't be using Jenkins. We'll be talking about Jenkins. We'll definitely be going over CI/CD pipelines. Definitely, I think we're doing some Ansible as well. But that's pretty cool. Welcome. I'm glad you're on board. Weird thing with permissions. Yep. Permissions with the cloud get real weird. We'll cover that pretty heavily. I think there's a whole day on IAM, which is the identity and access management within AWS, which is dealing with permissions. I think we have almost a whole stream just on that itself. But cool. We'll wait around a little bit. One more minute. Let me get a song that I like playing in my ears, so make it a little easier. Down a little bit too. Let's see what we got. I only have songs to choose from. I found a couple of playlists that people put together specifically for Twitch streams, so that they won't get auto banned from YouTube. So hopefully I can find some good songs on this list. Yo, hey Young Metro. So no biggie, no big deal if you're lost. Today we're kind of wrapping up. We've gone over some programming concepts. We spent the last week we went over some Linux concepts, and tonight we're kind of wrapping those things up with a lab. We'll be doing some programming things in here inside of Linux and automating some Linux tasks. No big deal if you're lost. You should be able to pick up. You should be able to pick up now. We'll be moving into a whole new topic next class, so it might be a good time to hop back in. If you're trying to hop back in, it shouldn't be a big deal. What's that t-shirt? Oh, sort of looks like Stranger Things. It's something I got free from conferences. This is the best part of conferences, that you get a lot of free clothes. It says secure things. I'm not sure which company it is. It's some security company, some, I don't know, application security company. But yeah, I've got tons of free shirts. Like I go to conferences purely to get a new wardrobe, like a work wardrobe, because so I can save a little bit of money. Checking in from Connecticut. Mostly caught up on the videos. Awesome. Welcome. After 3 days of trial and error, I was able to get VirtualBox installed on my Mac with Ubuntu. Excellent. I like that you're letting people know that you went through that trial, like you ran into those errors. That is, I promise you learned something in that process that may not be applicable yet, but it'll circle back and you'll be able to help somebody else out, or you'll be able to solve a problem because of the things that you ran into when trying to install that yourself. I know it seems, especially because we're early on, I know it can seem pretty frustrating, but I'm glad you were able to get it up and working. But cool, let's get started with the lab. So Labor Day lab, scripting in Linux. We're gonna put everything together tonight. E2 Brute or Et2 Brute. Anyone doesn't know, that's from the Shakespearean play. What is it, Julius Caesar? And I only put that on there because that is a play script. That's a movie script, play script, and we are scripting. I couldn't think of a good joke to put there, so that's what I put. But what is scripting? What do we talk about when we say scripting? A scripting or a script or scripting language. Now, this is pulled directly from Wikipedia. I thought it was a reasonable answer. But a scripting or script language is a programming language for a special runtime environment that automates the execution of tasks. We'll stop right there. We learned about what runtime means, and so that's when a program is actually run. We have runtime when it's kicked off and it started, and we have compile time. So this is for runtime use. It automates the execution of tasks. We talked about in DevOps, that's kind of one of the big goals, one of the big pillars is to automate as much as possible, and scripts are a way to do that. These tasks could alternately be executed one by one by a human operator. So that is generally what differentiates to most people a script versus a program. There's definitely a gray box in there, but basically you're taking things that a script isn't completely necessary. It is, again, it's automation. Everything that's in the script could be done manually by an operator and executed one by one. Scripting languages are often interpreted. We learned about interpreted versus compiled languages. Interpreted languages are kind of done on the fly and kind of read on the fly. It executes each of the operations as it is given to it. And so they're often interpreted. They're usually not compiled. We can write scripts with compiled languages, absolutely. But often they are interpreted. And on the right, we just have the script for Star Wars, because a script is very much like a movie script. You hand someone a movie script with their lines, they take it, they look at it, they read off the lines that they have, and they try to portray whatever the script tells them to. And that's very similar to what a script is. That's why it's called a script. It is something that the computer can interpret and read off of to achieve a desired state or action. So let me hop into the chat. Any questions? Yes, you can absolutely follow us if you're using Pop! OS. Young Metro, I am using Pop! OS. You can follow this pretty much with especially any Linux distribution. This will work on Macs as well. This will work. What we do tonight will work on Windows if you have the Windows subsystem for Linux. But yeah, we'll just hop through some scripting. There might be some easy ways to do it online as well. There might be some Linux sandboxes for free that you can hop into. But yeah. So that's what a script is. Pretty simple. Think about like a movie script. It is just a list of your lines, a list of things that you're supposed to do. So let's learn about shells. This is very important, especially because we're talking about Linux. We're trying to learn Linux. We're trying to script. Tonight we're going to be scripting in Bash. You can script in almost whatever language you want, but tonight we're going to be scripting in Bash. And so we're going to talk about shells. And if you don't know what this image is, you either are very old or you had a rough childhood, because these are the shells for Mario Kart. And if you haven't played Mario Kart, you should play Mario Kart, and you should know what each one of these things does. And they should each invoke an emotion within you because they've ruined lives. But cool. But what is a shell? A shell is a program that takes in commands from the keyboard and gives them to the operating system. It is essentially an interpreter. Let me make this a little bit bigger, and I'll put this link in the chat. I thought this was pretty cool when I found this site talking about shells. The concepts of shells, I think it took me a little while to kind of understand what a shell was, but I think this does a pretty good job. But it's a program that takes in commands from the keyboard and gives them to the operating system. So when you log into a server or a computer and you get dropped into the command line here, it is running a shell program. It is running a program that can take your keyboard inputs and interpret them. The one that's running by default on almost all Linux machines right now, at least, is something called Bash, which stands for the Born Again Shell, and we'll talk about that. Or it's just running SH, which is, I guess, the Born Shell. But yeah, again, that's all you need to think about it as. It is an interpreter for the commands that you're gonna send into it for Linux and Unix systems. So don't really try to think too hard past that. It's important to note that there are multiple different shells, though. Like I said, the one that we're going to be using is Bash. That's the one that comes to default on your Macs. It's running Bash by default unless you changed it. Soon, the new Macs, the new iOS or Mac OS will actually be coming with ZSH, I believe. So there will be a change that will provide you with a different set of features, but a lot of the stuff will still be the same. But it'll allow you to do some things easier. It's a different program to interpret all of those commands. So what is a terminal? And so a terminal is what we looked at here. It's the interface for which this shell can run. And, it's a program called a terminal emulator. This program opens a window and lets you interact with the shell. So you need to be able to interact with the shell. Even though we say this is the command line and it's not a graphical user interface, because it's showing you something, it is a graphical user interface, even if you're getting dropped straight into one. But that's all a terminal is, and it just allows you to interact with the shell. But all the Linux commands that you've been running, all the things that you've seen me do so far, that was Bash interpreting those things. So really, it's kind of just think about it as the that backend program that's interpreting the commands that we're sending to it. ZSH is I would recommend people checking out ZSH. I think it provides a lot of cool features, but don't stress about learning. Like you don't need to know ZSH. You don't really need to know a different shell. Bash is the most important one, I would say, in terms of your career focus, because again, systems that you have to log into, systems are going to get Bash by default, and it's usually going to be Bash and just the Born shell SH are going to be the only shells available to you. You're usually going to get dropped straight into Bash. So it's good to know kind of the features you have available to you with Bash. All right. Starting a terminal, we don't need to actually know the rest of this. But again, I sent that link in the chat. You can check this out to learn a little bit more about shells. It's a pretty short page, but that's all a shell is. So let's go a little farther. All right, let's cover some basic skills. So we're gonna get into scripting. We learned a bunch of commands last week, but tonight we're gonna cover a little more, some more base skills that'll help us be able to script a little bit better, because there's a lot of tools that Bash has available to it, or these shells have available to them to allow us to do some cool things. The first one, this one's huge. Arguments. These are basically options that are passed into a script at runtime to be interpreted. So when you run a script, when runtime means you're running it, when I kick that script off, I can basically pass in these arguments. I can pass in these options, and the script will interpret them. These arguments are also called positional parameters, because their location matters. So the location in which you put the argument matters. These arguments are command line arguments. So I don't know if you all have seen me, when we run a command, like ls and we add in something else and we do la, that's me. Ls is the command, and by default it'll run something. It'll run this little program, and what I'm passing in here, these are flags. People call them flags, but these are essentially arguments that allow the program to take different action. It interprets these flags. They get passed into the program, and it does something different, depending on what I pass in. Yeah, so that is essentially what an argument is these things passed in. So a lot of times you'll be able to pass in a lot more things. So if I clear this, maybe I have a command that says, print hello world. Maybe I have a command that's just print name, or maybe I don't know why that would be a command, but maybe it's just a tool that prints my name, and maybe I can pass in my first name, and then maybe I can pass in my last name, and then maybe like my age, and then maybe it'll print out, I hit that in, it'll read each of these. And again, position matters. I think we talked about arrays. So basically the command that gets passed it is basically at position 0. Everything after that increments by 1. So the space lets you know there's a new position. So now this is position 1, position 2, and position 3. And so it'll interpret those things based on the position you give it, but you have to, like, the tool or the script has to know how to interpret those. So you got to manually tell it how to interpret those. But that is how you pass in an argument. These things are arguments. Not really sure what they're called arguments, but that is the proper name for them. So let me stop there for a second. Any questions about arguments? Also, why is it was it good to be familiar with Vim? If you don't use it all the time, it's pretty much guaranteed to be, yes. So Vim, VI or Vim, it's good to at least have some basic understanding on how to like enter text into Vim, because again, you might have to log into systems and that might be the only text editor that is available to you. Nano is usually available as well, especially if it's a Debian system. But there's a high chance that Vim or VI will be the only text editor that is available to you. So it's good at the very least to be able to start Vim, to be able to open up a file in Vim, to be able to get into edit mode or insert mode, modify text accordingly, and be able to save and exit. The very basic things: open up a file, edit it, close it, is all you really need to know in Vim. Is all I would recommend out of the gate. That's the base level I think you need to know, and then you can take on as much as you like after that, but you should do that. Proving stop by to say hello to on the vid, systems administrator hobby. Awesome. Thanks, Abyss. Thanks for stopping by. Cool. So, all right, no questions or arguments. We'll move on. Those are important. We'll be using arguments tonight. The next one. These are called shebangs. So at the very top of a script, I don't know if anyone's ever seen, we'll just Google example bash script, and I can guarantee you first one I click on will have at the very top, it'll have this this pound !bin/bash. This is called a shebang. I don't know why, but that's what it's called. And what this does basically is it tells the script, it's not necessary for one, you do not have to have one, but it does tell the script what interpreter or what shell you would like it to use. So if you have commands that are specific to ZSH or functionality specific to a certain shell, then you need to specify that at the top of the script. And so that is what this is. So it needs to be a pound. It needs to be I know these are called bangs, but it needs to be exclamation point, and then the full path to the shell in which you are trying to use. Again, this tells the script which shell to use when it interprets the code that follows. It must be the first line of code. If you're going to use it, it must be the first line of code. That's the only way to read it. And it can also include arguments. So shells can also take arguments as well, and they do different things, and they're optional, but you can add in some arguments. So shebang, hash. Okay, that makes sense. Alternative names for both. Okay, cool. Also, the technical term for question mark exclamation point is an interrobang. Okay, I did not know that. Learned something new tonight. Thank you. I will. That's interesting. I'm gonna say that at work, and everyone's gonna think I'm smart. So thank you. I'm definitely gonna steal that. If anyone else has any great little tidbits that will make me sound smart at work, I would love to know them. But yes, which binary to run? Yes and no. So if I start out with /bin Python 3, well, if you're gonna run it with Python, you probably just want to make it a Python script and you'll run it differently, because this is a Linux shell interpreted script. It's going to be your shell that you want it to use. I have seen some with that have kind of hybrid approaches with using other things besides the shell, but I don't know. I've never run into a situation where I would need to, if I'm going to do a bash script, I'll do a bash script. If I need to do a Python script, I will do a Python script. Cool, but that's all a Shebang is. Just so you recognize it, just so you know how to use it if you do need to use it. We will be using bin bash all night tonight. Because we will be using bash. You could also use bin sh for everything that we're doing. We're not doing anything special, but we'll be doing bin bash tonight. And hopefully, again, I'm going to throw a lot of pop culture references in here. I guess this goes back to 01 maybe, but the very first season, I believe, of what is that show called? American Idol, with William Hung, who sang the song, the famous song. I don't even know what the name of the song is, but he sang Shebang right there. If you haven't seen it, definitely go on YouTube and check that out as well. Cool. So the last thing we want to know about tonight, I think, which will help us out, is exit codes. So when a Linux process it returns an exit code when they're finished. These exit codes let us know the status of what happened during the interpretation of that script. It lets us know if it was successful, if there was an error. I mean, these are just some of the examples we have over here on the side of what you might get. So it'll return a 0 if it's successful. And so you may not see these things. You don't see these things most of the time, but it is something that does get returned every single time something is run. And it lets you know what's going on. You should make use of them in your scripts to let other people know what may have happened as well, if you can. But yes, the exit codes are good. We're not going to do a ton with exit codes, but we'll do a little bit with exit codes tonight. And yeah, I just want you to be familiar with them. Again, 0 is always what you want. That's successful completion. A general error will be 1, misuse of shell command 2. So there's some pretty descriptive ones here that you can use to troubleshoot if you have any issues with your script running. But exit codes are important. Take some time looking at exit codes if you need to. I kind of have just picked them up along the way. As I get an exit code, I'll look it up as it comes along, because I think there are a ton more than this. I think there are a few more than this list, but only like a couple more. But yeah, that is what an exit code is. But cool, lab time. Let's hop straight into the lab. I don't think tonight's lab will take too long, but let's hop straight into it. So actually, before we hop into it, does anyone have any questions about any of the things that we talked about so far? There's a good kind of break point. Maybe I'll grab some water. But if anyone has any questions on any of the stuff that we've kind of hopped into so far, let me know. Let me grab some water first. All right, so let's get hands-on. So here's a scenario. So I want everyone to kind of get into the mindset of what the scenario is. So scenario part uno. So Spanish, that's Spanish for 1. If you don't know Spanish, uno is Spanish for 1. So we're on the first scenario here. This I intend for this to both be educational in technology, and also I hope that you leave this one a little bit more cultured than you were when you came on. But cool, so we all work at a sweet healthcare startup. We just got some funding, so we're going to be adding a bunch of devs over the next few months. We're going to add a lot of developers to the team over the next few months, so we just got a bunch of money. You're the only one who knows how to do the process of adding users to the system properly. That sucks. This is a common thing to happen. The systems administrator or DevOps person or SRE person is probably the only one who knows how to add, or do certain tasks. It may not be this simple of a task, but that's often the case. There's kind of this tribal knowledge that you kind of take on as the person in this role. And you might be the only one who knows how to do that process, which kind of sucks when you have a time of high volume, like when a bunch of people are going to be joining. the task that we have is we want to automate this task so that other engineers, we do have some other engineers here at the company with us, but they don't really do what we do. And we want to automate this task so that others can assist us with developer onboarding. So as we're adding new engineers to the team, we want to be able to pass off some of this work to the other engineers that we have at our sweet healthcare startup. So cool, pretty simple. We have our requirements here. So this is exactly what we want out of what we're doing. And so this is kind of how you'll receive your work. Some people, you do Agile Scrum. Some people do Waterfall. Some people have all these ways of managing a project, but usually you'll get some type of task that you need to complete, and you'll get some requirements for it. So you'll get some items that kind of make this thing complete, make this thing done, make this thing satisfactory. And so these are our requirements for this part 1 of our script. So a script can be run to do the following. 1, a user can be passed in as a command line argument. And so I didn't want to fill this slide with too much words, but this user will be the username that we desire for the user. So, if our company decides that everyone's username is going to be first name dot last name, for me, if we were creating an account for me, we would be able to pass in Aaron.Brooks into our script. Number 2, a user is created with the name of the command line argument. So we pass in the name. So first we need to be able to pass in the name. And then the second thing that needs to happen is a user needs to be created of the name that we passed in. So great, that's our first 2 options. Number 3, a password can be passed in as a command line argument as well. So now we have a user that can be passed in as an argument, and now we have a password that can be passed in as a command line argument. And then number 4 is that password is now set for the user. So now that user's password is the one that we passed in via the command line argument. And then at the very end, a message of successful account creation is displayed. So cool. Whoops, too far. So that is. It's not a ton. It might sound like a lot at first because we just learned what an argument is. So a little of this might be a little confusing. You might not really understand what we want yet. But basically, we want to write a script that's going to create a user for us. We created users 2 classes ago. It's a pretty simple process, and I can show you that. Now, let's do it manually first just so you can see what that looks like. So we want to create a user name. Let's say Tim Hawkins just joined the company, and we want to create a user for them. We would do user add Tim.Hawkins. Let's keep it simple. Let's do T Hawkins. We'll do first letter, first name, full last name. So T Hawkins just joined. User add. What are you supposed to think whenever you see permission denied or this cannot lock CHPassword? You got that right. Sudo. Perfect, Terry Brown. So we're gonna add sudo to the front of this. Again, if you don't know what sudo is, it escalates our privileges. So it helps us mimic the super user, or basically this is the admin rights to be able to do this. So I'm gonna put in my password. And there we go. So now we have, whenever you get dropped back into the prompt, that's usually a good sign. That usually means there's an exit code of 0. And if we take a look at CHPassword, which shows us our user, we can see here that T Hawkins is on here. So we've created our user named T Hawkins. So pretty simple process, simple command to be able to do that. And then so to give T Hawkins the password, what we would have to do is run this command. So let's use sudo, and the command to change someone's password is passwd, and then you specify the person's name that you want to change, and new password. I'm gonna make it password 1, and it's gonna make you put it in twice. All right, now it's been updated successfully. So that is basically, I've just done what we want the script to do for us automatically. And so that was the whole process to be able to do those things manually. You can see how if you were onboarding a lot of people, that piece may be annoying, but that's not so bad, but it may be annoying, and we don't want to have to do that by hand because that's annoying. So let's start our process. So I'm gonna just change into a good folder for this. Stream code. Nah, I don't want to go in there. Let's go and let's make a new directory, and let's call this let's just call this scripts. So we made a cool scripts directory that we're going to work out of, and then we're going to open up Visual Studio Code. I would Vim it, but I don't think I'm conscious enough yet to not be hitting all my shortcuts, and it'll be a little bit confusing. So, all right, maybe, yeah, actually I'm gonna Vim it, but I'll make sure I don't do anything crazy. So I'm gonna open up, and actually I'll open up this, oops, wrong key. So I'll make it look a little like Visual Studio Code. Actually, let me get out of here. So we're just gonna make a script now, and we'll call it whatever we want, but we're gonna do vim users.sh. So this command here, vim, is just to open up the vim application so that you can edit code. If I just hit vim, and what you saw me do in the line above here was vim dot. We learned dot means right here as a location on the computer. So it opened up this directory that we're currently in. But I want to start a new file. I want to open up a brand new file. And so maybe let's do it in 2 commands. One of the commands that we talked about a while ago, but we haven't done, is the touch command. And this basically creates an empty file for you. So I want to create an empty file called users.sh. So that .sh at the end, that is the extension that we're going to be using for our script files, for our bash script files. And you can think of it as user.shell if you'd like. But yeah, that is, we're going to call it user.sh. And so we'll touch user.sh. And if we do an ls, we can see here that we have a user.sh that was created. So a new file that was created, and it's 0 bytes. So it's empty, completely empty file that we just created. You don't need to do that. You can do that all in one fell swoop by doing vim and then the name of the file. But just to show you, you can create, that file for yourself if that makes you more comfortable. We use the touch command. And now we can edit that file. So we created an empty file. Let's go ahead and edit it. And we do vim user.sh. And again, this is an argument that we're passing to vim. So, it interprets that and knows which file it should open up. And cool, we open it up. The file is empty, as it should be. It lets us know down here the file that we're using, lets us know here the lines and the word count, etc. I have my Vim set up to do a lot of different things. Yours probably won't look like this out of the box. If you do the little pound GitHub command here, you should be able to see my config files, and you should be able to get the same setup. And one day we'll have to kind of go over, maybe if we have some time at the end of the stream, I'll show you how to actually put those into your Vim settings to be able to use. And T-Rex, it's exclamation point. Sorry, I said pound. It's exclamation point GitHub, and that'll give you a link to the mastermind GitHub. But cool. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add that shebang at the top. So we're using Vim. So you can see at the bottom here, it tells me what mode I'm in. So we said Vim is a modal editor. So, it has modes and it has commands. And so what we need to do is we need to get into the mode that allows us to enter text. Right now, I actually can't enter any text. So the command to do that, the button to do that is I for insert mode. Insert mode is when you can go ahead and type. So once you're in insert mode, it's fairly straightforward. You can just do things like normal. So I'll just start typing. And I'll type in /bin/bash, and we've completed the first piece of our script. We've kind of started off the script. All right, so let's take a look back at our requirements. Let's get comfortable with referencing the requirements that we have. 1, a user can be passed in as a command line argument. So let's do this first. How can we do that? So the way that you can, because command line arguments I told you are positional, they basically get assigned to a variable value. So we talked about variables, these basically shells, these little boxes that kind of represent a value that can change. Because they get basically assigned to a variable. Variables inside of Bash are denoted with a $sign, and so it's going to be $, the number of their position. So remember I told you the command basically starts at 0 and then it increments after that. So if we're going to be passing in a name, the first option that we can pass it is a 1. So basically, let's do this. We're going to write a script that basically just echoes. just to know that we're passing in something, we're going to echo whatever we pass in. So we're going to echo $1. And what this should do for us is it should spit out whatever we pass in as a command line argument. And so echo, we talked about how you can display text. We did the format.println and stuff with Golang. This is how echo is how you display things to the screen in Bash or in Linux. Like if I do echo here, and I echo, hello world, that will just spit it back out to the screen. And so, let's take a look at what we said. I'm going to echo $1. So you might think that's going to echo, the string $1, but it will not. If I just run the script, so to run a script, you do / and then you do uses the sh. This invokes a script, or you can call the full thing and you can go /bin/bash and you can run it. But commonly you're going to see this, and when I try to run it, it gives us a permission denied. Let's take it back one class. Why is it giving us permission denied? Let's take a look at the permissions of this file. So it's owned by me. I'm Aaron Brooks. I'm A Brooks. The group is A Brooks, and A Brooks has read and write permissions, but no execute. The group has read and write permissions, but a blank execute, and the world can read it, but can't write or execute. And awesome. So people know the answer to this. We are going to add execution privileges to this file. So we could do chmod 755. So 7 will give it something, and we could do users.sh. But commonly what you're going to do, a little shortcut is you can do chmod +x, and that's going to be plus execution, users.sh. And if we take a look back at that file, you can see now, my shell is set up to kind of change colors to let me know, things have changed. And now, everyone has the ability to execute this. Again, you can use that if you don't care who has the ability to execute it. If you just wanted it to be just you, you could make that change manually, but chmod +x will give us access to execute it. So now we have the X here, so we can do /users.sh. So I'm gonna hit enter here, and you can see that it spits out a blank line. It gives us a new line, basically an empty line, and it drops us back into the prompt. So it didn't give us any errors, so that's usually a good thing. So our script actually ran successfully, but it spit out exactly what we gave it. We told it to echo the first command line argument that we passed in, and you can see here that we did not pass in any command line arguments. So it did echo, it echoed what we passed in, which was nothing. So that's why we have this blank line here. So let's pass in something, and we'll just pass in the username, Aaron. And it spits it back out. So our script is spitting back out whatever we pass in. And so even if I change it to test, it spits out test. And then if I put anything after it, nothing happens with the stuff after it. It takes it, no problem, but it doesn't break the script or anything. I can pass in any number of arguments, but it won't do anything with them. It accepts them, but we haven't told the script to do anything with them, so it won't do anything with them. Cool. So we've satisfied, at least we know how to satisfy the first piece now. The first piece was to a user can be passed as a command line argument. So we know that using the $, and then the number of the argument's position, we can accept that value. So let's open our file back up. And so, cool. So it said accept it. We're going to need to do a little bit more to actually do something with it. But yes, the $1 is just how you do that. And I can just show you actually, let's also do echo $. I'm going to skip 2, I'm going to go to 3, just to show you that even still, it should still work. So right here, this command, I passed in 1, 2, 3, 4 different items, and I'm only echoing out the first one and the third one. So hopefully we should only see test, and then the one here that that ends in WF. And I'll do that, and that's exactly what we see. It skips the other 2, it doesn't use the other 2. It only uses what we specified here. And so that's how you can take in a positional argument in a bash script and be able to use it. So we're going to use that to manipulate some things in a second. So let's add this user. So we said we need to be able to take in that value as an argument, and then we also need to be able to create a user with that. Now, we know the command to add a user is user add. And so bash is like, this bash script is interpreting the things the same way it would if we were typing them on the command line. So there's nothing different here. So user add is the command. And then we would, if it was user add, A Brooks, that's what the command would be, but we're gonna be passing it in. So we're just gonna do user add $1. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and save a little bit of time and make sure we put the sudo in here, because we know that we're going to need those escalated privileges to be able to add this user. And let's test if this works. So let's tail CHPassword to see our users. I'm going to remove T Hawkins really quick. So remember, the command to delete a user is user del, and I'll remove T Hawkins. I always forget to do sudo. And if we take a look at this again, we can see T Hawkins is no longer there. We've deleted the T Hawkins user. So let's clear this and let's run our script. So we're gonna run user.sh and we're gonna pass in T Hawkins. And so it runs, it doesn't give us any errors, and let's check if our user was added. And look at that, T Hawkins was added. Could I add sudo when running the script as opposed to adding it to the script? I'm pretty sure you can. Yep. And that's usually what you would want to do. I just threw it in there because we were in there. This scripting session will absolutely not be a session of best practices. Absolutely not. But you could absolutely do that, and that would be the preferred method. I'm pretty sure. So let's delete T Hawkins again. User dels T Hawkins. Let's make sure it's gone, and then let's run. You can just do, and it runs no problem. And yes, you could. So that's a great question. Adding sudo to the commit to the actual script execution works as well. But I'm just gonna put it. I'm gonna put it back in there just for visual cue's sake, just so you can see that it's the same commands that you're running from the command line. Is the reason why I want it in there. Cool. Hey, you got sponged. Day's going good. Day's going pretty good. Like I said, did a lot of adulting today. Changed my oil and stuff like that, which was much needed. So good day. It's good to have a day off sometimes. Like, I definitely need a little bit of reset here. So I'm gonna add in sudo back. Cool. So does that satisfy our first two? So cool. We command line argument, we've satisfied that. A user is created with the name of the command line argument. We've just seen that we can create a user. Cool. Now a password, we want to be able to pass in a password as a command line argument. So ideally, I want this to be the second one since I'm passing in the username first. So let's just see if we already have seen that we can pass something in. We already know that we can pick the position, so we know how to do that. But how do we set a password? We saw that setting a password can be done like this. So we can do another cool thing here is we can run sudo password. This is a second command, so it'll run this first command first. And then it'll go ahead and it'll run this command. So sudo password $1. So we don't know what the username is going to be passed in is yet. So we need to reference the same variable. So this is the same command as if we did T Hawkins or whatever name that we pass in. So this is the command that's to change the password, and we're going to write that like this. All right, so let's see what happens when we run this. Actually, let's run this. All right. Is T Hawkins still there? Yeah, T Hawkins is still there. So make sure he's gone. All right, let's run it. Let's remove the sudo. All right, so it's asking for a new password. Let's go ahead and enter password. And let's enter it again. All right, password updated successfully. Looks good. T Hawkins is there. But what did we just not do? Let's go back and read what this said. This says a password can be passed in as a command line argument. We did not pass in a password as a command line argument, even though we satisfied that the script allows us to set a user password. So that's why it's important to read the requirements and make sure you're kind of designing the solution to fit around some parameters that were given. So although this works, this is not really the intended use case, and it doesn't really provide us much value actually by having to interactively type in the password right there at all. So what we need to do is that we actually need to change this up a bit. So first thing we want to do is be able to take in the password. So we're gonna do, I'm trying not to jump too far ahead. I added in some bonuses and I'm trying to make sure I'm not doing what's in those bonuses first. Cool, so let's sudo password. Now, maybe, I don't know, I know, spoiler alert, I know that we cannot use the password command to be able to pass. We can't pass in the password straight into the password command. I already know that, but maybe, we're trying some things out, we're testing, we're trying to figure out how to make this work. And maybe, I'll say, hey, I'm gonna pass in the password here as number 2. And then maybe just so I know that it took in the password, let's go ahead and try to echo, number 2 after it gets passed in. And let's see what happens. And let's go ahead and pass in the password of password 1. Cool, and we get right here, we get an error. So actually, you can see here, it actually tries to run the user ad. It says user tLogins already exists because I didn't delete that user. And then it gives us some output for the password command. So side note, actually, and at the bottom here, it actually echoes the password that we passed in. We passed in the password as number 2, it echoes that out. Whenever you run a command improperly, you pass in arguments, pass in flags that it doesn't know how to handle, it will spit out the usage of that command for you. Usually it'll spit out the usage of that command for you. So whenever you see that, you should automatically be thinking, hey, I did something improperly here. I passed in something I wasn't supposed to pass in, or I used something incorrectly. And so that's what this lets us know here. So that didn't work. So it actually would have, because it's interpreting these lines one by one, it actually ran this. It created the user, even though the user was already there. It would have created the user if the user was not there. It broke on this, and then it ran this. So we need to fix this here. I'm gonna save you some time. We usually need to Google around for this. This is actually something that's very interesting, watching people try to do, I watch a lot of people actually try to do scripts to create users and run into this problem. But essentially the password command, this passwd command, let's see, let's take a look at the man page for it. It's actually, it might take you a little while Googling around for this, and maybe something you might want to Google to find this out is, hey, maybe I can Google how to automatically set user password. No, that's, maybe you want to say something like bash script to set user password. And maybe you can just Google something like that to start trying to find your answers. It looks like someone says how to change the Linux user's password in one command. And look through those options. There'll be a lot of options here, but you can take a look at some of these and try them out. It'll take you some time to figure out what answers are good and what answers are not good. I know how I'm going to do this. I know the way that is best to do that, and that's basically with a different command called CHPassword. The problem with the password command is the password command actually only allows you to do it interactively, and when we're running the script, we don't want to have to do it interactively. You can actually pass in a password using the password command, but it has to be encrypted, and you've got to pass in the encrypted hash basically, and it gets a little hectic trying to do it this way for a simple thing that we're trying to do here. And so actually in this man page, again, the man page is the manual for the command and lets you know how to use it. You can see here that there's actually a dash, I think there's a dash P in here, I believe. Maybe something different. I thought, what did I use? I thought this had a dash P or something, and I'm pretty sure you can actually pass in a command into into this. I know you can also pass in a command into the command that we're going to use, but it'll have to be encrypted, and I don't want to have to encrypt it first. So we're going to use a command called CHPassword. Whoops. And what this basically allows you to do is the difference between password and CHPassword, which I think is a change password, is that it's basically for bulk changing things. It'll actually read in a file. If you pass in a file, it basically reads in from standard input, and it will make those changes based on what it gets in. So the first one is for kind of a single use case, and it's interactive only. And this command here is so that you can do bulk things. So there's some pretty cool ways we can use this. We're going to use this in the most rudimentary way possible, to be honest here. And what we're going to do is we are going to pipe together a command really quick. And let's say we have this user. We already have T Hawkins here, but we actually can't log into T Hawkins' user account. So if you don't know, to be able to log into another account from the command line, you type in SU and then a space, a dash, and a space, and then the name that you want to log in as. So we're going to try to log in as T Hawkins from the command line. And we try to do that. It's going to ask us for a password, which I don't think we set, but maybe we did set it. Actually, we did set it. So I'll do password 1. And okay, it dropped me into a new prompt. It no longer looks like this. It gives us an answer. It gives us a warning here, but not an error. Warnings are things that are potential problems, but not breaking. So if you ever see warning, that means that whatever you did worked, but like there may be an issue. Error would mean it didn't work. It would let you know that it was an error, and that usually would mean it failed. But it says that there's no home directory for no such file or directory here, but we are dropped into a new prompt. And again, if you want to see who you are, you can type in who am I, and I can see who I am, and it says now I'm T Hawkins. So basically I've logged in as the T Hawkins user, and I hit Control D there to log out. So Control D logs out, or you can I'll log back in. Or if you want to log out, you can type in exit, and exit will log you out as that user. Or I think you can, is that the wrong password? I think you can also just type in log out. Okay, you can't type in log out, but we can't type in log out on this system, but you can type in exit or hit Control D, and that'll log you out. So su minus gets you in, su minus username gets you in, Control D or exit gets you logged out. But actually, if I delete this user, and if I create this user again without giving it a password, so T Hawkins, darn it. See, sudo. If I create this user and I try to log in with them again, it's gonna ask for password. I can type in anything I want, and it's not gonna log in. It's gonna fail because there's no password. There's no way to authenticate yet using password with this user. So that's just to show you that like you do have to set a password first. So it is important that we get this part right. But what we're gonna do is, like I said, this CHPassword command, it updates passwords in batch mode. And the description here says the CHPassword command reads a list of username and password pairs from standard input and uses this information to update a group of existing users. So basically what would happen is I would be able to pass this thing a file, or I would be able to type it into standard input. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna echo a username and password. So I'm gonna echo T Hawkins, and this is the format that you would need to do it. If I was writing a file for this, I'll basically create a whole list of username and passwords that are colon delimited here. And let's say I want the password to be password 1, like we've been doing. And so basically we just let them know that's a string. So we're gonna echo that. We're gonna echo that to standard out, but we're gonna use the pipe command. We learned that this pipe, not command, but this pipe tool basically allows you to take what's on the left, take the output that's on the left. And so the output of echoing this is gonna spit this out to standard output. It's gonna spit it out to the screen. And then the pipe is gonna take that output and use it as input into the next command, the command that follows on the right side of it. It's gonna send that into there. So, and we're just gonna pipe that into CHPasswd. So again, all that's going to happen is it's going to run this first. This is going to, the output of this is going to be T Hawkins password 1. And actually, I'll show you that first. It's going to take this output, the pipe is going to take this output and use it as input to the command that we put after it, which is CHPassword. All right, so I'm going to run this and hopefully it'll set the password. And we didn't get an error here. Didn't get an error, but we, it dropped us back. And now we can try to log back in as T Hawkins and see if the password worked. All right, it logged us in. We can type in who am I again to see we for sure are T Hawkins. We've logged in as T Hawkins. So we know that our command worked here. So a lot of times when you're bash scripting, or you're scripting, you can figure out what to do piece by piece. You can, go to the command line, you can kind of run these things and make sure you get the command right. And then you can take that command that works, you can take the thing that works and you can modify it to be dynamic within the script. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna open the script back up. And let's go ahead and just paste this. So let me undo that. So there's some cool, I'll give you guys some good Vim shortcuts that might be powerful for you. To delete a line, what you saw me do here is to delete this line. You actually just hit the D key twice. So just DD will delete a line. And so that's a quick way to delete a line. And then I'll just go ahead and I hit I to go back into insert mode. And I'll paste this in just so I can use this and we can figure out how to modify this to work how we want it to work. So we know that we need to get the username, and we actually already have the username. So the username's already $1. So $1, and then we need to be able to take in the password. So we already learned how to take it in via argument, and we're gonna pass that in as the second option. So we're gonna just change this to $2. So now these are variables, so the value of these will get interpreted when this runs. So let's go ahead and see if this works. So actually take a look at that. See if you can, make sure you understand what we did here. First line is, actually, let's put in some comments. So comments are ways to basically annotate your code, put in information about your code without the interpreter paying attention to it. To do that in Bash, it is just the pound symbol. And so we're gonna put a thing here saying this line is to add a user that is passed in as first command line argument. Cool, that's what our first line does. That's all that does. So now our second one. This line is to set password for user that is passed in as second command line argument. So I can say whatever you want it to say. Getting good at commenting and making meaningful comments that are descriptive but not too long, don't take up too much space. Take some time to get good at. But again, these are just two separate commands that are going to get interpreted. And let's see if this works. So we're going to delete that user and we're going to try a whole new user. So let's create a whole new user. Let's call this user mastermind. And then the password we want to use is, again, we're going to keep using password 1 because it's easy to type in. You should not use password 1 as your password on a machine that people can access. This is a VM that's a throwaway VM, so no big deal. But we did this, and let's see what happens here. So, user add. Group mastermind already exists. If you want to add this, so it gives us an error. So it looks like the mastermind group already exists. Maybe that was an example that I used previously and never cleaned it up. CHPassword, failed error. So we got an error here, and authentication token, manipulation error, big problems. So we see a lot of things happen. It lets us know, when there's an error, it lets us know a lot of stuff. So user mastermind password not changed. Cool. We ran into a lot of problems. It worked here, but it's not working here. Let's figure out why it didn't work. So let's take a look at it. All right, what didn't work here? So we set our user. Actually, let's do this. First, let's start from scratch. Let's delete just to make sure. we got a thing that says, you know, a group already exists for mastermind and also that stuff. So let's make sure we don't have a user called mastermind. Cool. Let's also make sure we don't have a group. All right, so the group's gone as well. And let's go ahead and run it again just to see, you know, if things change. So we ran it again and we no longer get any errors. We ran the exact same command and we don't get any errors. We got errors the first time because the group already existed. And so these may be things that you have to get your script to handle, and that may be something that we handle later on in the video, but or in the stream. But so we got some errors first, and it's important whenever you get these errors to read what it's saying. You know, make sure you go through and try to. It takes a while to be able to pick out the pertinent information, but it let us know that a group already existed. And if I want to add its user to a group, I can use -G. You know, it's letting us know some things here. I basically said, hey, let's start with a clean slate. This group's already here. I know I don't need this group right now. I want to test the script. I could have just used a different username, but I went ahead and I reset everything, and I went with I ran it again, and everything worked out fine for us. And we can do the tail and make sure that our user got created. So our mastermind user got created. Let's do it again. Let's create another one called Academy. We'll create another user called Academy with the same password. Looks like it completed successfully. All right, so we've got two users here. We were able to create users, and let's try to log in as them to make sure that it set our password properly. Su minus mastermind, password 1. Who am I? I'm mastermind. Excellent. So set our password properly there. And Academy. Password 1. Who am I? Awesome. So it set it both. So it looks like our script is working as intended. It looks like we are able to basically pass in our username as $1. We're able to pass in our password as the second command line argument, and we're able to set that password in one fell swoop. So let's see, what is the last? There's one more thing here. Last thing is a message of successful account creation is displayed. So when this runs, you can see how it runs and nothing really happens after that. So where did I run it? I ran it up here. And once I ran it, nothing happens after it. So let's run again. Academy 2. Nothing happens. It doesn't let us know anything. And we want to be able to make sure we tell whoever's using this script. Again, this is for other people besides us. We want to be able to tell that person, you know, the status and what happened. So let's give them a message once this runs that everything is good. So first, let me delete Academy 2 and Mastermind. Academy 2. All right. Let's add in a message to the user. How would we display a message to the user? We learned it a lot of times so far. We learned about here. This is again that same concept of displaying output. And let's put in a comment of what we're doing. Send success message to user or to person running the script. And so we're just going to echo anything that we want. So we'll do echo, and we'll do great job. And then we'll do something cool here. We'll do some string interpolation, and we'll say $1, great job, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. We want to say this user has been added to the system successful. But instead of saying this user, we want to make it dynamic, and we want to say the user's name. So we can just say $1, and it should fill in dynamically the person's name and the username that we added, and it says great job. You know, T Hawkins has been added to the system successfully. All right, let's run it and see what happens. So let's run this. So we're gonna add in Academy, and we run it, and it runs through, and it says great job. Academy has been added to the system successfully. So we were able to get that successful message out to the person running the script. So I think we have completed scenario 1, and pretty simple. Like, it's a pretty simple thing. So let's take a look at, we have a couple lines of code. Let's take a look at what we have so far. Again, all this is just extra stuff that you don't actually need. It would run fine without it, but we have our shebang. We have the line that's going to add in, be able to take in a user's name and add that user to the system. We have our command that's going to change the password automatically, and we have our success message. 3 lines of code basically to do those things. And again, it's just like if we read it from the command line. In that definition that you saw of a script, it said alternatively this could be run by an operator, line by line, manually if desired. So this is something that we could run manually, but we're able to do it a lot quicker by just running it through a script. So cool, I think we've satisfied all these requirements. But now we have a bonus. We have a bonus here. So let's make this a little more readable. It's a fairly simple script so far, but we want to make it a little more readable. We want people to understand what's going on a little bit better. Maybe someone wants to learn the script or figure out how they can add to it, and they hop in and they see this $1 and $2, and they're not really sure what's going on there. So we can make this a little more readable. So what we want to do is we want to capture the command line arguments as variables to use those variables to reference the values in the script. So the $1 and $2, they're already variables, but what we can do is, just like anything else, any other variable in any other programming language, we can set new variables and assign them to that value. So let's make it very simple. So in Bash, assigning a variable is easy. You don't need any keyword. You just type in the name that you want the variable to be. I'm going to type in username in all caps, and I'm going to set that to $1 because the username is being passed in as the first command line argument. And then I can pass in password. So I'm setting a variable of password, and that's going to be set to $2. And then actually let's comment out the rest of the script. So it won't run anything I comment out. It won't run those lines, but we can just see here what happens if we echo. We're going to echo username, and we're going to echo password. And let's see what happens. Is it going to echo 1 and 2? Is it going to echo the actual $sign username and $sign password? Or is it going to echo exactly what we pass in as our command line arguments? And we do this, and we do test as the first one, so the test user and password. And you can see here it echoed out test and it echoed out password. And again, this may be a little confusing. It's you're setting a variable based on another variable, but you're setting the value of username. So you're setting a variable called username. You're setting the value of that equal to $1. $1 again is the first argument that's passed in. So that was test in this example. So test gets set, username gets set as test, and then password gets set as what we passed in as the second command line argument, which is password. So this is an easy way to be able to take in some command line commands, and then you don't have to worry about it throughout the script anymore. You use a variable that's very declarative and very descriptive here of what you're trying to do, and so that's less confusing now. Like when people see the variable username, they're like, must be the username that was passed in. Password must be the password that was passed in. So let's incorporate these changes into our code. So basically, everywhere that we have 1, we're going to use username instead, because that is the value that we need. Username, I could have did a find and replace all here, and then 2 needs to be password and username. Cool. So this is a little more readable. I think it's a little more readable. I think people who aren't familiar with Bash, who may need to go in and make some changes, would have a better understanding of what's happening, at least on these lines down here. Maybe they don't understand what's happening up here, but I think right here, this makes a little more sense. This makes a little more sense. So let's save this, and let's run it again just to make sure this happens. So we're going to create a test user with the password, and great job. Test has been added to the system successfully. and it looks like everything still works. And let's make sure for sure, because testing is important. And I'm gonna log in as the test user. Awesome. Who am I? I'm the test user. So our script still works. Cool. I'm gonna remove that user. All right. So we've completed the bonus assignment as well. We were able to make it a little more readable. We were able to use variables. Again, this is kind of full circle from everything that we've been talking about. We learned these coding concepts earlier on. I told you it didn't matter which language we were learning because those concepts span across the board. We've already hopped straight back in with variables. We'll be doing some more. We'll be doing some loops here. We'll be doing some conditionals shortly as well. But those concepts, again, they apply across the board. A variable is a variable. They do the exact same thing in anything that you would be using. So cool. I think we've completed that. And let's just do a recap of part one, and then I'll take some questions. I'll go back and see if you guys ask any questions over this part, because I know this might be a lot. But part one recap, what do? We learned about a shebang. We learned that needs to be the first line, and that it's going to interpret. It's gonna let us know. It's gonna let the computer know what shell to use to interpret the rest of the commands that are to follow. We learned that we use standard Linux commands to be able to automate an action. So the action that we wanted to automate was adding users and setting their passwords, in a system. And we wanted to be able to do that pretty easily. And we use standard Linux commands. We didn't have to learn a bunch of extra stuff. We took a lot of things that we already knew. And then we used what we learned in the programming fundamentals section to use a variable, not user variables, to use variables to make our script more readable and easier to work with. That will be important later on. So those are things that we just did. So take that in. I'll pull the script back up so you can take a look at what we did so far, and I'll answer any questions that anyone might have. Okay, cool. Yep, looks like missing a character is very often the problem. If you forget to put something somewhere, or you forget to add in the $sign here, because if the $sign isn't here, this means something different. This will actually add a user called username in all caps. So this is very different than this. And again, the $sign is just how you specify a variable, or how to use a variable inside of the shell script. Yeah, seriously, it is even now, I've got some years into my career. I make simple character errors very often. Luckily, there are a lot of tools now. You've got these IDEs, you've got things like Visual Studio Code that can kind of point you in the right direction, but it doesn't always work, especially if it's JavaScript. It does not always work, which is kind of annoying. Another reason why I like Golang and why I like compiled languages, because they usually what the problem is, immediately. But yeah, let's take a look. Why are you not using sudo add user, but user? Oh, okay. So add user actually is an upgraded version, a newer version of user add. Add users actually, I don't think it's available on a lot of systems yet. I think it's available on newer Debian based distributions. But yeah, we're using user add simply because that is the command that's going to be available most of the time. Either way, not a big deal. If add user works for you, absolutely you can use add user. And actually, let's look at the man page for add user, because I think there's some caveats with add user. Add user group to the system. Add a user and add group, add a user and group to the system according to the command line options and configurations. Oh, yeah. So I think add a user, you have to set up this add user conf thing. Yeah, and I also think, again, I think it's also Debian specific. There'll be a lot of times where you're not using Debian in a production setting. A lot of Red Hat distributions are pretty popular. So that's the reason I didn't use add user. But again, use the commands that work for you. It is not, again, this whole thing is about the concepts. there's a lot of ways to achieve the same thing in Linux and programming and all that. Like whatever commands are going to get the thing done for you, use those commands that that you're familiar with, because you'll never be familiar with all the commands. I come across so many different things every day. I learn new stuff about Linux every single day. Get comfortable Googling, try stuff out. It's okay. Like, try them out locally. Don't try them out in production. Don't try them out on the system, that you can't make that like has to stay up. But try things out. Like, don't be afraid to run through commands. Look at the man pages. Google, what does this command do? Take some time to get up to speed on some things. Like, every day is going to be a learning experience. There are a million commands, so don't sweat it if you don't know one. All right, cool. That's part one, and there's a 3-parter. Part 3 is actually pretty short, so we should be good. I think we're adding a lot of functionality in part 2. But scenario part 2, or part do, I think it's do. This French again. I want you to be great at tech, but I also want you to be cultured. That's French for 2. If you don't know any French, now you do know French. Put it on the resume. But success. The script that we wrote is allowing other engineers on the team to help assist you with onboarding new engineers. That's great. Your day and your time is very important. Now you have people helping you out with some of those smaller tasks that you have. Although it's working well, there are some pain points. The first one is that some of our engineers find it cumbersome to have to generate a secure password. So you saw me typing in password 1. That's not very good. But you want passwords to be secure, and they found it cumbersome to have to generate that secure password. The second is that there's no standard way of distributing this information to a new employee. So, we're creating these accounts for employees, but now our engineers have to go through and copy and paste things and remember what password they put in there and put it into an email and send it to someone. And if they don't know if it wants to be through email, they don't know if they're supposed to put it in, an S3 bucket or in the Dropbox or something like that. So there's no standard way of distributing this information to the new employee. And lastly, there's a document that the company has with company rules on it regarding the system, and they want to be able to distribute this to each of the users' home directories so they have access to it when they log in. So we've been manually, after we create a user, someone's been going and copying this stuff into those directories so that when people log in, they have those rules available to them so they know how to use the system properly. We want to do that in one fell swoop. Like, we want to get that done. We want to automate that process. We shouldn't have to be doing all this stuff manually. It's absolutely an automatable task. We're going to go ahead and we're going to automate those things. So first thing I want to do is stop and let you take it in. Take in what we're going to do. Again, put yourself in that mindset. What do we want to do? We want to make sure our engineers, read their pain points. The pain points are that, it's cumbersome to generate a secure password. Second is that there's no standard way of getting it out to the new user, and that there are company rules that we want to put into a directory, and we don't want to have to do it manually. We would like to do it during the user creation process. Let's take that in. Cool. All these videos on the stream going to be archived. So I'm still learning about Twitch. They are for 14 days right now on here. I have them all saved. I should probably start uploading. So the first, I think, 4 streams, I was using music off of Spotify that was copyrighted, so I can't put those videos on YouTube. I can try. I'm actually going to try. I was trying to figure out a way to strip those out. I thought I figured it out, but it was messing up the voice audio track as well. So I'm going to try to stick them up, and hopefully they stay. Everything after the 4th stream, I believe, has copyright-free music, so I shouldn't have any issues with that. So everything 4th stream and on should be YouTube friendly, and will be available for all time on there, or as long as YouTube works. So definitely go ahead and follow the YouTube channel. I will be uploading those. I think I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to get that sound, get this music track out of the first ones, the first few. I'm gonna YOLO it, upload them. Hopefully they don't get caught. I think the music may be low enough that it's not a big deal, but yeah, cool. All right. So you've taken in what we got to do, and let's take a look at the requirements. So our script needs to be extended to do the following. The first one was that a script needed to be created. Now our script needs to be extended to do the following. A random password is generated if no password is passed in as an argument. Gotta read that wording, very important. A random password isn't always generated. It is generated only if no password is passed in as an argument. So we need to learn how to check to see if something was passed in or not. So we'll do that. The username and the password for the newly created user, we need to write them to a file. So the standard that the company has chosen that we've decided on is that we're basically going to send a file to the user. So we need to create a file that has this information inside of it. Again, this file then is sent as an email attachment to the user with a success message. So we create the file, we need to ship it off to the user with a success message. And then the file with the user credentials is deleted from the system. So we created a file, we put secure information in it, we sent it off to the right user, but we don't want it to stick around. We don't want that to remain, on our system. We want to make sure we get that deleted. So we want to make sure the file is deleted. And then the last thing is we want to make sure the company rules file ends up in the user's home directory. So, yes, that's important. That ends up there. So first, real quick, let's go ahead and make the company rules file because I don't have one here. So I'm going to make a file and call it rules.txt, and we'll just do this part first. And number one is going to be don't do bad things. Number two is do good things. And number three is have fun. And maybe at the top, we'll just put a heading of these are the company rules. Cool, doesn't really matter what's in here. This is just gonna be a text file that has the rules in it. We're gonna use that later. Just wanted to get that out the way right now. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to generate a random, whoa, what happened? Oh, I forgot my keys in there. We need to generate a random password. Yeah, how do we do that? So there are a lot of tools you can use online to generate random passwords. There's a lot of different ways you can actually do this on a Linux system. There's a lot of ways to do this, using different programming languages. But just to show you that you don't need to know all this stuff, you can just Google it. You can Google. Let's go Google bash generate random password. So someone has already solved the problems that you're working on. Like someone's already solved these problems. You don't need to, if you don't know offhand how to do something, it is okay to Google it. It's very, very okay to Google it. And let's see what we have here. So look at this. We got the very first one. It's going to give us 10 different ways to generate a random password from the Linux command line. Awesome. This is excellent. Let's take a look at this. Let's read it. If you the first couple times you get into stuff like this, you go ahead and you'll read it. We'll read through. All right, generate a random password. I'm just gonna grab this. It's the first one. I've done enough Linux that I'm comfortable enough with trying this out. I'm not even gonna read this. You should read this. I'm not even gonna read it. You're gonna get to the point where you're not even, your brain is cutting out all the extra stuff here. You're looking for answers. You'll find an answer. Maybe if an answer looks good to you, like maybe I don't want to use this one. Maybe like I've never used, I don't know what's going on here, and this is a regex and I'm not sure what it's doing, so I'm uncomfortable with that one, or I want to know more about it. Maybe I'll read it. Maybe I will read it, but I'm gonna grab the first one and I'm gonna try it out. I think you should learn. Again, if you have a safe system to do it on, I would learn to tinker and see what they give you. Try them all out, see what kind of output you get, see which one fills your need. So let's go ahead and paste this in, and I'm gonna run this, and then we can break it down. If this does what we want it to do, we can break down what it did. So it looks like it spit out what looks to be complicated password. But we need this to be a random password. So I'm gonna run it a few times to make sure that it's not giving me the same thing every time. Run it again, and this appears to be different from this. Run it again, I'll run it a few times. All right, so it does look like in here, I got a few of the same ones. But yeah, it looks like I got some duplicates. All right, maybe let's see if we can see why. One, we've got this date command. So let's, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I can just run the date command and see what that gives me. All right, gives me some numbers. And if I run it again, it gives me some more numbers and it changes. Cool. Date, all the date command does is give you, it prints the system date and time. So whatever the date and time on the system is, you can format it any way that you like, but date allows you to be able to get that information. And the rest of this stuff, the SHA-SUM is just a hashing algorithm that does a bunch of stuff. And this is a fairly complex command to start out on, but all you need to know is it is basically using the input for the date to generate this algorithm to be able to create a password of 32 characters, basically, and it's spitting it out to the command line for you. So pretty cool command. Again, we didn't have to write that. You don't even really need to understand it. You grabbed it, see if it does what you want it to do. That may be a deal breaker for us. Right now, I'm going to say it's not a deal breaker for us, but because it's using the date as input, if you run something and it processes more than one items at the same time, somebody might have the same password. Is that okay? Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay if everyone has the same password. Maybe it's not okay. Is your system, is your use case something that you may be passing in a bunch of things to be processed all at once, so that this is a problem. Right now, for what we're doing, we're passing in one user at a time. No big deal. This is sufficient for us. We'll go ahead and steal this as to not run through and try too many things. But again, there were 9 other options on that page, and I'm sure there are 50 million other ways to do it. Looks like some people have passed in some options. Oh yeah, to generate some secure passwords. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yes, it only has 1 second of resolution because the date will increment by 1 second. This is a Unix timestamp. It just continuously increments, and you can convert this. This converts down to a date. You can convert this and format this into a human readable date, but that's not important right now. We have our way of generating a cool password. So let's go ahead and put this into our script. And again, remember, we're passing this big command that we did not create. I did not create this command. I didn't use my Linux knowledge to build this command. You don't need to know all of it and, get it all together. No, you can Google it and you can take it and use it in your script. So maybe I just want to make sure that in the script it's doing what I want it to do. So maybe I'll just echo it. So let's comment out everything else. And let's just echo this in our script and see if this does what we want it to do. And let's go ahead and run. And it spits it out. I'm actually surprised it spit that out, to be 100% honest with you. I thought it was gonna error. Oh, okay. No, I'm not surprised. That's good. That's good. So let's do this. Now that we know that we have a command to do that, let's take this, exit, yank it. Let's set it as the password. So before we're taking it as a command line argument, let's paste it in and see what happens. And I'm going to basically delete this line and I'm going to echo password because I want to see what happens. Echo $password. Now let's see what happens when we do that. All right, so we got this error here that says command not found, and then it echoes it. I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised that worked. Because usually when you want to set a variable to the output of a command, I should just remove. We don't need to echo it here. So maybe actually that didn't work. That did not work. It only echoed. Let's check. I think it just echoed twice. It echoed the first thing because the command was there. Oh no, it does. That does work. I did not think that was going to work. All right, but yeah, usually when you're going to do this, you should add in a $sign and put quotes around it, and basically that'll evaluate this first, and then set it to the value, just to make sure you don't get any weird stuff. And so this should be a cleaner way. It should be able to spit it out without the error. So you see now we don't have this weird line 4 command not found thing, even though it still worked. Actually, it didn't work. These are the same. Interesting. That's what that, very interesting. But yes, so we were able to run a command, and we were able to evaluate this command first and set this variable to the value of whatever that generated. So now we were able to do that. But major key here, a random password is generated if no password is passed in as an argument. So right now it will always generate this random password. So here's what we need to do. We need to, let's actually leave that there. Let's take another line. Password equals, this is what it was before, equals $2. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to check to see if anything was passed in the number 2 spot. And what we can do is use an if statement, and then we can do those conditionals. We learned about conditionals and comparison operators. We learned about those in the programming portion, but we can do an if statement here. Bash has if statements. So we can say if, and then we can set our condition. So in Linux, this takes a little while to get, but we're gonna do if -z, and this basically, the -z is gonna evaluate if this string is not there at all or an empty string. If this was a number, we'd have to do this in a different way, but basically we're gonna evaluate number 2. And we're just gonna say if number 2 doesn't exist, then run. Actually, whoops. Then run this. And so, all right, so let's break down what we did here. So this is an if statement in Bash, and basically the thing that we did here, the -z, again, it's going to check the string to see if it's an empty string, or unset at all. So if we don't pass in anything for number 2, so if number 2 is empty, if we only pass in the username, there won't be anything for number 2. So this will get set to basically a null value. This line here actually checks to see, it says, hey, is this null? The -g says, is this thing empty or null? If it is null, if this statement evaluates to true, this is how it works for all if statements. If whatever statement you put after it evaluates to true, again, that's a Boolean value. That statement will always evaluate either to true or false. It evaluates to true, and then it will perform an action. So if it's set here, it'll get set properly. If we pass it in, when it tries to evaluate this, it says, hey, that's there, it's set, we don't need to do anything else, so it won't run this command. So this should cover our use case, and we can test this as is. So let's do this. Let's pass in a password. So we'll say Aaron, and we'll pass in the password of password2. And you can see here, it spits out password2 because that's our password. But if we take password2 off, it generates this long random password for us. Why do I need quotes around 2? I actually don't think I need quotes around 2. I don't know. I usually put them there because this is usually a string evaluation. I don't actually think I need quotes around it at all. So great question. Just have it. Yeah. So you don't need it. There's a lot of looseness with Bash, to be honest. But yeah, I usually, just out of habit, I usually put it there because it's that -g is evaluating strings. But yeah, so you can see here, so now we have an option. If I pass in a password, it will use that as the password, but if I don't, it will generate one for us. And we did that by doing a conditional. We ran an if statement. If this thing is true, then do this thing. A simple logic operator. It's not a complicated concept. If this thing equals true, then do this thing. If it's not true, then don't do anything. And so it's pretty simple logic. We could actually do this. We could do something like, if you wanted to make it a little, I don't know, a paradigm that works for some people's brain is to then do like, if do this, then if, then else, do password equals $2. So you could do it. You could do it this way. For some people that's a little more readable, but I prefer to do it this way. To either set it, to check if it's there, then just run this evaluation, and if I need to set it, I will set it. So cool. So we have that option to do that here. So we've set up number one. Number one's all good. Now the username and the password for the newly created user are written to a file. How do we write something to a file? So we can do this in a few different ways. We learned a command to create a file. So let's go ahead and create this file. So let's actually add in our stuff back. And let's add in a quote here. I mean, a comment here, so we know what's happening here. It says checks to see if password is empty. If so, it generates a random password. All right, so now we know what that does. But now we need to, again, so now we have a username and a password. We have those values, but now we need to put them in a file. So right underneath, I'm gonna put it here because we could do it anywhere in the file after these first two options. Well, we could do it anywhere after here because we need to have these be set first. And we need to make sure we already have username and password. If I put it in between here, then if I didn't pass in a password, it would never write the password. It would write an empty password. So we need to put it after where we're specifying username and password, but anywhere will do. And let's go ahead and write this to a file. So you could create the file first. So I could create a file in my current directory, and I could call it credentials.txt if I wanted. And then I could go ahead and do something with that. You don't actually need this. You don't actually need to do this, but I'll leave it there just so, you know, we can exercise more of our Linux command usage. So we're going to create empty credentials file. All right, now how do we write stuff to this file? So I'm not sure if we went over, what are they called? They are called, they're not called input output operators. I know, well, I'm going to show you, there are ways we can manipulate text. There are ways we can send information to, you know, standard input or standard output, or we can redirect where information to standard input and standard output go. So you can do something like this. Standard output is, you know, when you echo something, it's standard output. So we can echo basically, stream operators, yes. There is another word I'm looking for. I'm going to find it like 10 minutes from now. I'm going to find it. But stream operators, yeah, they are called stream operators, but there's definitely another word I'm looking for that. But cool. So we're going to echo username to standard output, and then we can redirect that. So usually this will go straight to the screen. We can redirect where that goes with these arrows. So one arrow will, I'm gonna use two arrows here. You can either do one arrow or two arrows, and then you tell it where to go. So I spelled credentials wrong. Wow, I spelled credentials way wrong. Credentials. Yeah, it looks right. So echo username, and then send it to where we want to go to. So credentials.txt. So I want to send that output. I don't really need the /. I want to send that output into the credentials.txt file. Yes, maybe redirection operators. Maybe that's right. It feels more right than stream operators, but yeah, redirect operators, sure. But yeah, so there's a single redirect and a double redirect. Basically, the single one will overwrite whatever's in that file. So be very careful if you are doing a single one. So if credentials.txt already had a bunch of stuff in it and I did a single one, it would basically erase all that stuff and put whatever I sent into it. Double appends to it. So double will just put it at the bottom. Basically, if there's stuff already in there, it'll put it at the bottom. So we will do, we'll append. So we're going to echo out the password as well. And we're also going to, send that to the credentials.txt file. Cool. So it's gonna create an empty credentials file. and then it's going to write username and password to credentials file. And you can see now our script is getting, longer. It's not huge at all, but it's getting longer. And so let's run this and see what happens. I don't actually want it to create the user right now, so I'll just go back into, whoops. And I don't need to do this either. I actually don't need this line at all. All right, so right now it's going to take the username and password or create the password, and it's going to create an empty file, and it's going to send that information into that file. So let's run that. So let's do /users, and again, I'll just do hey Brooks. All right, so let's take a look at our directory. All right, so this credentials file wasn't here before. It's 940 right now. This was created at 940. So it created that file for us. We ran the touch command, it created it, and let's take a look. Let's take a look at that credentials file. And our information's in there. So A Brooks and our password are now in there. So does do the arrows automatically create the empty file? The arrows will create that file for you. So let's say I delete, let's say I delete the credentials.txt. Whoops, mistype. If I can remove this line and it will still create this file for me. And if I run it again and take a look, it's recreated this file for me. So you don't need to run that touch command, but we just wanted to get some practice in. That redirect will create the file for you automatically. And take a look at it, and that stuff is in there. Let's make it a little more readable though. Let's do something. Let's make it a little cooler. Let's let them know what the username and the password is. Maybe somebody has a really long name and it looks like a password. So let's make sure they understand what they have here. And so let's pipe in a little more information. So let's say echo, hello, username. Here are your credentials to log in. And then let's put a space in for formatting. So I'll just send off, actually both of these, I need to actually put them in the file. So credentials.txt, and same thing here. Cool, so I'm just redirecting that echo command into the file. So I'm echoing into the file instead of to the terminal. All right, and then I want them to know that this is their username. So I'll do username, colon, and the space. Let them know that this is their username, and then let them know that this is their password. So now we got some better formatting. It should be a little more readable for the user, and we'll run it again. And so actually, I'm not going to delete the credentials. I'm going to show you what's in the credentials. And then I'll show you that if I run this again, that because we're appending, it will not, it'll just start putting stuff underneath this, which is kind of annoying. And that's why it's good to know what this will do. So we'll cat credentials. And now you can see here, so this is the lines that were already there. And then it went ahead and started sticking stuff underneath. We don't really want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. But again, that'll get taken care of because we're actually going to be deleting this file. But so I can actually do you can do echo, and then the single redirect will override everything. So if you want to empty everything in a file, and if I cat that credentials file again, there's nothing in there. So that's how you can quickly empty out a file. I actually don't even think you need to echo it. I think you can just do that and it will empty it. It just redirects what's on the left into the right and then empties it out because I just did one. If I'd done two, it would have not deleted anything. But cool. So let's take a look at our thing. So cool. So we're creating a file. I'm gonna remove it really quick. Now we're creating a file that puts in the username and the password. So users, mastermind, and now, all right. And so that's what our file looks like. So it's, you know, easier to read, good for the user. We got to move fast. Okay. Cool. All right. So we're into a file. We've done number 1, number 2. Now we want to send this file as an email attachment to the user. We'll do this quick. This is just this step was just more so to show you that you could email things from the command line. And so let's do this. So actually, I don't even know if I have the mail command. There is a command called mail that you can use. There's actually a few packages that you can use. There's like 5 or 6 different ways you can send email from the command line. But I'm gonna go ahead and install this really quick. Oops. Really quick, I'll install this package so that I have the mail utils command. And I'll just test that in that side. This actually might, I probably should have tested this. This may not work because email does email providers do a pretty extensive amount of verification on a message. And so I'm going to send some messages from this virtual machine, and it's going to have a weird host name. It's not going to be coming from a real internet site. It might not ever come through to my Gmail, but we'll test and see. Like the command that I'm showing you does work. Like this is how you would do it if this was set up to be a mail server. This is how you could do it. This is probably not how you would do it, but I can use this mail command and I can add an attachment. So I can do mail-a, and I can do credentials.txt, and then I can do -s, which is going to be the subject of the email. And I'm going to say, here are your credentials. And then what else can I do? I can do, I can just do the abrooks at mastermind.io, I believe. And I think I have to send in like /dev/null. Oops. Let's see here. What did I didn't close this. All right, cool. So it says null here. Mail, nobody, no message body. Hope that's okay. So that is letting me know that it sent something. Let me see if it actually sent here. I hope I don't have any crazy messages here. Hopefully it went to my spam so that you can see that a message was actually sent. Looks like I have a lot of stuff here. Probably went, if it went anywhere, to nothing in my spam. Okay, well, it didn't send. Gmail probably blocked it, but this is a way. This is how you would send. This is how you would send mail from the command line. You could add an attachment here. You could also put in a body, a message body. I'm gonna copy this command because I know this is at the very least close to the command. Not a big deal that it doesn't work. But we can add that into, we're gonna add that into our script anyway though. So we want to email. So after the file is generated, we want to, this is probably a bad order. I'm gonna put it after, I'm gonna put the mailing piece after when the user and password are created, like actually created on the system, and send email to user. And let's paste in the command that we had. And here's what we can do. Everyone's are going to be called credential.txt. Let's, this would only work if we'll just have to assume here that the email address is equivalent to the user's email address. ID is equivalent to the ID that we're setting on our computer. So we can just say username at, and then our cool tech company, or whatever the domain is, ourcooltechcompany.com. And cool. So now this dynamically will, based on the username, will send the email to the right email address as well. So pretty cool. You can do stuff like this. It does work. Again, if the system is set up for mail, we'll just assume this is set up for mail, and we have gone ahead and made that piece. Cool, send it a file attachment, and then the file with the user credential is deleted from the system. So we need to delete that file from the system. So how do we delete a file? So delete credentials file from system. Very simple command. We know how to touch is how we can, create that file. To delete something, we can just do an RM and then the name of the file. But we're gonna do rm-rf, which you don't need the R. That's for recursive. That's if you're doing directories and you want to delete everything behind it. But you'll commonly see rm-rf to delete stuff. I think you need the F to delete it if it's not empty. I think. Not 100% sure. I always do RF because but do you need to put the email in quotes? I don't think you need to put the email in quotes. Let me actually see. Linux mail command. I don't think you need to put it in quotes. Mail body. That's how I could do the mail body. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this. I wish I had set up a non-secure email box. Like, I'm sure Gmail just blocked this out. I'm sure they did. But yeah, that's I don't think it needs to be in quotes. I think it can be outside of quotes. Actually, no, it doesn't need to be in quotes. Even though we're interpolating this into here, I don't actually. Maybe it does. It wouldn't hurt to put this in quotes. I don't think if we're doing the string interpolation here, but I think it'll work fine without it. We'll leave that there anyway, since it's actually not sending anyway, and it wouldn't either because we use this fake domain. But we need to remove that file now, so we're just gonna remove rm-rf credentials.txt. All right, so let's save that and let's make sure. Actually, in here somewhere, let's put an echo to make sure. We already know it's working. We'll run it again, and I'm gonna remove it myself, and I'm gonna run /users test creds, like credentials, and see what happens. I'm gonna run it, and then it looks like it gave us the mail thing, like it tried to send out mail. And if we do an ls, there's no credentials file there. The credential file is no longer where it was. And that lets us know that our rm-rf worked. If we're sending out emails properly, we could check and make sure that we got the email as well. But we can't check that right now. So this is what we have. So we have satisfied almost everything. And the last thing is that go away. Company rules file is in the user's home directory. So one important thing, and since we're short on time, I was going to show you that earlier we kept getting a message every time we logged in to another user. It will basically say, hey, this directory cannot be found. The user's home directory that we expect it to be can't be found. In your command to, let's actually delete some of this extra stuff. In the command to create a user, in this user add command, we can actually do you can actually add a flag. I'm pretty sure it's -m, and I can check the man pages really quick, but I think this will actually go ahead and check and say, hey, if the user's home directory that we're creating isn't there, we're gonna go ahead and create that for you. So let's check. Let's see if I can find the M here. And then I'm just going off of memory. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, create home. It creates the home directory if it doesn't exist. So I can go through now and I can do, I'm gonna do user add, Aaron test. I'm gonna give it a password since it's not gonna let me know what the password is. Password 1. And then I'm gonna tail just to make sure it created. And we can see Aaron test is there. And if I do su minus Aaron test and type in my password, this time it doesn't give us that error. And I can do a who am I to make sure I'm Aaron. So I am Aaron test. And then I can see where I am. If I type in PWD, that's present working directory. That lets you know where you are currently. And lets me know that I'm in home Aaron test. Cool. So now that we know it does that, before it didn't do that, so this next piece will fail. But we've now modified the script so that it does work. But what we can do now is we can add in a command to copy that file that we created called rules.txt. and we can copy it into the user's home directory. So we would do, let's say, copy rules file into users home directory. And all this is going to do is a copy command. So in Linux, the command to copy something is cp, and then you basically copy a source file into a destination. So that's the makeup of the command. It's cp, whatever file you want to copy, and then its destination. So we're going to copy rules.txt, and we have to give it the folder location for the new place. So we're going to copy it into /home/username, because that's the file that's going to get created, and that's where we're going to copy it to. And so we're going to escape this. We're going to user delete. Actually, when I'm deleting a user, how do I delete all of their stuff? -R. So cool. I want to delete the user, these users that I made. So if I do sudo user delete -R, what did I do? Aaron test. It'll delete that home directory. And so if I do ll/home and see what's in there, that folder isn't there anymore. This is just it tries to delete from my mail spool. Ignore this. This is not an error. This is not an error for the deletion of the user. This is a file that tries to delete when I add in this -R that is not there because I don't have any mail. Cool. So let's run the add user test again, Aaron test again. So can I create regular file? Okay, cool. So we got a permissions error. So let's go ahead, and we know the deal with that. And we can do sudo. And I'm gonna run the deletion command again because I want to start from scratch. And then let's run it again. All right, so it looks like it ran successfully. If I look at our home directory, it looks like it created an Aaron test directory. If we look in that Aaron test directory, we can see that the rules.txt is in there. So let's log in as Aaron test. And our password. If we look at our file, we see our rules.txt is there. And if we cat our rules.txt, are the rules in there? All right, it looks like the rules that we wrote are in there. So that just shows us that we've been able to copy that file into the home directory during the account creation process. So we've satisfied all the things on part 2. And so let's recap what we did. We used the Linux date, time, and hash tools to generate a unique password. So we also learned how to just Google how to generate, a unique password. We learned how to Google, to find something that was relatively difficult to kind of do on our own. We were able to steal that and use that. We learned how to append text into a file. That's with those redirect operators. That's those 2 little arrows, or single arrow if you want to not append, if you want to just overwrite everything. And then we learned how to send an email from the command line. And then we also learned how to copy a file with that part. Cool. So scenario part Tatu, that's Swahili for 3. Again, we're cultured. We've done it. This part has actually been pretty fast. I think we'll be able to finish it in 3 or 4 minutes. But we can create a user. So now we can create a user in an automated fashion. So let's step back into that scenario, step back into the company hat. We can create users in an automated fashion, but now we've run into one final issue. Some of our engineers have really fat fingers. Fat fingers is like the term fat finger is very common, for when you accidentally type something wrong, because your fingers cover up more than one key at once. And then sometimes they mistype usernames. We also realize that no one has any loyalty anymore. And some of the new engineers we have hired have already left. Sure, we can add users, but currently we have no way to remove them and clean up the system. So scenario part 3, our script needs to be extended to do the following: accept the command line argument to add or delete a user. So we need to tell it what to do, whether we want to add or remove that user. If any other option besides add or delete is entered, display that as an error with instructions on how to resolve. And then 3, if the remove user option is selected, then the user and the user's home directory needs to be removed. So let's run through that real fast. We can run through that real fast. It's not as complicated as it sounds. What we can do, the best way to do this is to, I'm actually going to open this up in VS Code for this because it's a little easier to move all the stuff without confusing you. But what we're going to do is we can use functions here the same way that we learned functions when we were learning Golang. Let's put this back in. Let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, we can use some functions here. And so everything that we currently have creates a user, adds a user. So we're going to add that into a function called add user. So we're going to create a function here. This is all you need to do in Bash. And you add in an open bracket and a closing bracket. And again, if you don't know what a function is, this is basically a reusable piece of code that you can call over and over again. So we're going to package all this up into a little function here. And now this code, if we ran this right now, wouldn't do anything because it's inside of a function. We haven't called this function. We're going to save it. We create a function called add user that will run all this stuff. So at the bottom here, we can run add user. And it will go ahead and it will run this stuff. So let's save it and let's run it to see what happens. What did I call it? Scripts. All right, so if I do /user.sh mastermind test, unexpected end of file. What did I do wrong here? Let's check. If I unexpected end, what did I type wrong here? Line 40. Oh. There is maybe, actually I was supposed to do this, but I don't think that's the problem. Unexpected. It actually might be a So this is the kind of problems you'll run into while you're scripting. You need to define it as a function. Oh yeah. No, this is right. I just need to do this. I'm pretty sure. I think it's just simply that I moved this, that I didn't have it touching. I'm pretty sure is the problem. Pretty sure. Let's find out. Nope. So you said I need to define it as a function. In Bash, this is how you define, pretty sure it's how you define a function. Actually, let me see. Put function. Well, I thought you could, I don't think that's right. Let's Google it real quick. Bash, define function, Bash functions. Yeah, see, I thought it was just function name. Huh. Second format, I guess you can, but I'll figure out why that's not working later, but it looks like you can add function as it. All right, cool. But the first one showed, I'm used to not defining it like this. But sure. Let's try this. Take the, no, that's not, what, really? Take the, on line 39, oh, yes, sorry. See, this is the problem. Oh, what happened? Yes, this is the problem. I don't write Bash all the time. And this is why you shouldn't worry about syntax, like memorizing syntax. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that. On line 39, to call the function, I just need to call it like this. I don't need the quotes. That's annoying. Cool. And so we have a sudo in there, so I have to put in my password. Thank you very much for that. Cool. It goes ahead and it runs through and it adds in the user that we passed in. So we should see mastermind tests. Cool. So the problem there was, if you didn't understand what the problem was there, is that what's happening? I think I broke my stream VM. Okay. Is that in Bash, to call a function, you just call it. You don't need the quotes to, you don't need the parentheses to call it. In most languages, that's how you call a function. So that's what mind fart there, me trying to go fast, but cool. Yep. So we made this function an add user function. So we turn this entire thing into a function. So what we can do is we can also create a function to delete a user really quick. So we'll do a delete user function, and what we'll do here is we will the thing to delete a user was let's make this full name just to be descriptive, and delete user was user sudo user del user delete, basically, and then that username. Oh, we're gonna add in the -r because we want to delete the home directories and everything, and we want to do username. All right, and so now we have this user delete thing, but it's not going to get used. We can call it if we like, and it will create the user and then delete the user, but we don't really want to see that. How do we determine what gets called? We can basically do another if statement. So let's do this. Let's add in, basically what we want to do is now a better way to write our command would be the user add user.sh, and then the command should be second. The thing that we want it to do should be second. So it should be something like this, like add mastermind test, or it should be like remove mastermind test. And that makes a little more sense for us. So first, we've changed the order of things. So we want the add or remove to be number 1, and now we want this to be number 2, and the password to be number 3. Because we used variables here, we don't need to change anything else. Everything else should still work fine. But then what we can do here is we can check what gets passed in if add or delete is passed in, and we can do if. So we can say if $1, because that's the first option that gets passed in. If it equals the string add, then run add user. Else, what is it? Else if, or is it elif? I think it's elif. That feels right. Then elif $1 equals remove, then run delete user, and then else echo, you need to specify either add or remove. All right, so let's talk about what we did here really quick. Actually, and then let's put this back up. And I need to end the if statement. All right, so basically we've created two different functions. Everything up here as the user. This little function down here deletes the user. And then maybe we'll actually add in here echo username has been deleted if we do that. But cool. And then we added some functionality to choose which one. So $1 is the first option that gets passed in. So if someone types in add, then it's going to go ahead and run add user, which is the stuff up there. If they type in remove, it's going to run delete user. If they don't type in either one of those, it's going to say, hey, you need to specify either add or remove. Let's save this and let's try to run it and see what happens. So this is already here. So let's try to type in delete. We already created mastermind test. Let's try to remove it. All right, unexpected token near else on line. So that's probably just, I actually think I have to do this. I think I have to do this. And this is just syntax problems, I think. So let's do bash if else, because I probably just don't have the syntax right. And else, all right, cool. If, then else looks good. Elif, then, all right, cool. I think I just fixed it with the then that I put under the elif. I think that'll do it. Let's try it again. All right, what is this? Specify either add or remove. Line 45 and 48, so something's wrong with these. Let's, maybe I don't need, Maybe I don't need these. Let's see. Nope, missing exclamation point. We're missing, hold on. Let's figure out what's going on here. It's close. Do I have to do... Oh, man. Yes. Better. I hope that's not it. Maybe it is. Delete command not found. Oh, so it read in colon delete. Oh, actually, I think it's I think these actually have to be quoted. Because it got it as delete, but it got it in with a bracket. You need the spaces, but you don't have. Oh, okay. Gotcha. You can see it's been a while since I've done any serious bash scripting. Yeah, there we go. I actually think I can leave those back here. Like that. You don't have it before the closing bracket. That feels better. All right, that did it. Okay, so, but if I do delete, I have to do remove and not delete. All right, mastermind has been deleted. All right, so we got that right. That was really annoying. Again, that was just a syntax problem. Needed some spaces in here. But basically, again, we're just checking to see if the user passes in the word add or the word remove. So these are the commands that we want to give it, and then it chooses which function to run based off of one of those. And so you can see now if we do CHPassword, we can see that mastermind is now gone. But if we go ahead and we do Aaron test, but we add Aaron test, Aaron test is already there. So let's remove Aaron test as well. I don't think the password matters. Aaron test has been deleted. So it looks like it's working. Let's go ahead and add Aaron test back. All right, great job. Aaron test has been added to the system successfully. Su minus Aaron test. Oops. Aaron test. Password 1. I typed that in wrong for sure. Password 1. All right, something's not working in the script. Let's see. Let's make sure we didn't delete the line. Username, password. I wonder, actually, I cannot log in. Need to change to S3. Oh, in the first statement, yeah, you're right. Cool, good catch. Trying to go too fast now. Oh yeah, right here. Thank you, good catch. Setting the password wrong, so it's generating a random password. So if I go ahead and I remove Aaron test and I re-add Aaron test, great catch. And then I su minus Aaron test and log in as password 1. Huh. Too fast. So password 3 and 2 for username. Where do I need to change? Oh. No, that should work. I did this in first statement. 3 for password. We're talking about down here? No. Why didn't it like my password? Maybe I typed it in Aaron test. It does not like password 1. Let me copy and paste. Maybe I'm just typing wrong. Huh. Well, instead of the password improperly, I can do a quick test here to see what the password is. I can, I'll just echo password after this. just so I know what it is. And we can debug this at another time because we are running way over. And let's go ahead and delete it first. Remove, then add, and then, oh yeah, so doing something a little wrong. I'm sure it's a simple problem, but if I log in as Aaron Test with the right password, I am in as Aaron Test. So I'm gonna push this script up to GitHub. I'm gonna create a repo for it really quick. I'll do it right now while we're on stream, just so you guys can see what this looks like. Hopefully this is set up to be able to push here. Let's create a new repo really quick. Let's call it scripts public. I'll add a description later, and I'm going to push this up. So I'll get in it, and then I'll add this. So there's our first script that we've ever written. Let's log out. Let's get in it. Git add. I'll do rules and users. So basically all I'm doing is pushing this up to GitHub so that you guys have access to this. I'll send out a link as soon as I do it. So git commit -m our first bash script. And I don't know if I'm set up to push from this computer, but if not, I'll get set up. Oh, actually, git push. Did I not add? Yeah, there we go. Was it A Brooks? Yeah, I don't think this is set up. I don't think it's gonna work. Huh, there we go. Maybe it is gonna work. Cool. So, yeah, I got this little plugin that shoots off stuff, but cool. That was a lot. I thought I was gonna be able to squeeze that in a little bit better, but let's refresh this. If you wanna take a look at the script that we wrote, we can look at it here. And if anyone knows, if anyone wants to find the error, the error in the script, pull it down, run it locally. You can download it or clone it. Run it locally, see if you can fix the issue. And if you do, post it either in the Slack, submit a PR if you know how to submit a PR. But it's something we can definitely talk about next time. I want to let you all go, especially, after your 3-day weekend. I know you want some rest before going back to work tomorrow. But was at the end of what we had here. Cool, yeah, that was the last slide. Yeah, but that was our lab. That was, a fairly simple exercise in running through requirements, basically. Being able to automate certain tasks that are given to you, being able to identify tasks that are tedious and that can use some automation around them, and then again in practice, putting them into practice and building it piece by piece. The first iteration of our code was only 3 lines, and that worked well for us, and we were able to add to that. Take that same approach to when you're building out these scripts, building out these tools. Take them line by line. You don't need to sit down and write all this at once. This is not a huge script, but you definitely take piece by piece, read through the requirements, get each piece right. It's really not that hard once you see it in action, and once you sit down and try to do it yourself. It's really not that difficult. It can be. I know my first couple times writing bash scripts, I was like, man, this is super complicated, but I was already doing the stuff manually, already. And so just being able to put it in a file works. There's actually ways we can do this without using functions to make it once you're a little more advanced, functions makes it easier. That paradigm is easier for me to understand now, but there's ways you can do this where you don't have functions and it's just kind of one big script, and it'll decide what to do. In that case, you could do it that way as well. A million ways you can do it. Again, we're taking something that you can execute manually and we are automating it. And that was the whole purpose of what we did tonight. But cool. I hope you guys got something out of this. Sorry to keep you for an extra 18 minutes. again, take a look at the code that we did in GitHub. See if you can, if you didn't understand much of it, run through it. See if you can, read the comments. See if you can start to figure out what's going on. If there's a command I ran, maybe you don't understand what CHPassword is, Google CHPassword and see what that does, what it is, what it does. Watch a YouTube video on it. Maybe you can understand that a little bit better. It's not really important that you know what that does, but it's more important that you know what's happening in the script, and that we ran through and we added in some logic to be able to take in command line parameters. So, we talked about arguments and that the position matters. So that's something important to get out of this, because when you're writing bash scripts, almost always knowing those arguments and how those fit into the script is very important. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. Again, hopefully it was understandable. Hopefully it wasn't too much. Really sorry I had to kind of rush through and crush through there at the end. Thank you all for the help in the end. Mech Warrior, that was a big help. I think you caught 2 of those. Yeah, was it Spiel My Drink? I like that. It's pretty good. Thank you for the help there right at the end. But yeah, hopefully someone can go through and find the error, find out what's wrong with the script, why it's generating a random password every single time. But yeah, that's all we got for tonight. On Wednesday, we will be doing security and networking. So we're going over stuff like SSL and SSH and various protocols. I think we'll be going over the OSI model and a bunch of other stuff. So that'll be pretty interesting. And then that's when we're going to start getting deeper into the system stuff. So we're going to be using Linux, but we're probably going to start to be using Linux in the cloud. This stuff's not Linux specific that we're going to be going over next time. Those protocols and things are not Linux specific. All of them aren't Linux specific. But yeah. That's it. So what if the script stops and crashes before it gets to the ARM line? Absolutely. That is a problem. There's still a lot of ways we can bolster the script, and maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll revisit this script every so often as we're running through, and we'll put in some more things to make it a little more robust, make sure that it's fault tolerant and that it can still run and do the things it's supposed to do when it runs through an issue. But if it were to stop or crash before it got to the ARM line, then that's very problematic. And the next time this runs, the next person would basically get whatever it ran successfully again, would get the credentials of the last time it ran properly plus their credentials. So it'll be really confusing, really unsafe. So that's an excellent question, and that's how you should be thinking about, like, hey, what happens if this were to happen? What happens if one of these commands were to fail? That's all part of the learning process, and there are definitely ways we can improve upon this script to handle things like that. And that's really what takes you from being a good scripter to a great scripter, is knowing how to handle things like that and being able to think about use cases like that as well. So cool. I'll see you all back here on Wednesday. Thanks for showing up on your day off. Again, happy Labor Day. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your night. But yeah, we'll be back 8 p.m. sharp on Wednesday. Everyone have a good night. I'll see you later.